All right, Shabbos, good morning. Let us begin the daf. Today's daf is Kuf Gimel 103. We are picking up on Kuf Beis and with Beis 102b, and we are picking up 4 lines up from the bottom. I want to begin by thanking our sponsors of this morning's shir. To thank our Talmud Torah sponsors, for the month of Sivan, Justin and Abigail Rosemore, for dedicating all of the shiurim and drashos this month in memory of their beloved son, Kobi Chaim Yaakov David Zichron Lebracha Ben Yosef Tzadok, Alan and Sue Meyerowitz for dedicating all of the Shur and Drushos this month, and family. Jason, Deborah, Justin, Rebecca, Mindy, Simcha, and all the grandchildren for dedicating the Shur and Drushos this month in the merit of a Refuah Shlema for Sue, Shulam Mistova Bas Mindel, and the Kozlavsky Mishpacha. Baruch Vishlan Sonia, Harry, and Adrian for dedicating the shir this morning in commemoration of the yahrzeit of Mr. Kozlavsky, Zichron Lebracha, Leon Kozlavsky, Aryeh ben Baruch, Zichron Lebracha, such a special neshama, such a special man, and someone who was a pillar of our shul for so many years, and a pillar of our daf yomi. Our first daf yomi in the shul was Mr. Kozlavsky, and also Mr. Nabazni, Zichron Lebracha, whose shiva is being observed now. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, their neshamas will have an aliyah and the families a nechama. And I will say with that, let us begin. So again, we are continuing. We started the new parak yesterday. Really fascinating new parak, discussing about some of the malachos of Bona, Makeh, Bepatish, and with that we continue today. So we'll say again, we're picking up 102b, Kuf Beis, Amud Beis, 4 lines up from the bottom. So Ba'imine Rav Nasan Bar Ushim and Rabbi Yochanan. So Rav Nasan Bar Ushim asked of Rabbi Yochanan the following shaila. Misases Mishumai Mechayev. So let's remember again, the Mishnah mentioned that if you chisel, you are chayiv. So the Gemara says, what malacha is chiseling? So achvile biyadei mishum makeh bepatish. He motioned with him with his hands because of makeh bepatish. Okay, now both say, now understand. Now we're assuming right now that makeh bepatish just means delivering the final hammer blow. So in a case of chiseling, let's assume for a moment that you are going ahead and using these stones for building or something of the sort. So the act of chiseling is the final preparations for the stones. But the Mishnah read Mesases and Makeh Bepatish, which makes it sound like chiseling is something different. It's not an issue of Makeh Bepatish, rather it's a different malacha. Ema Hamesases Hamakeh Bepatish. Rather, the way you should read it is one who chisels ultimately again is in violation of Makeh Bepatish. Good. So we'll say, so look at Rashi just a moment. Last Rashi in the daf. V'hachi kamar hamesases shu chayiv mishum makeh bepatish chayiv. So again, the Gemara says really what it means to say is that if one who goes out and chisels a stone ultimately is chayiv because of makeh bepatish. Good. Top of Kuf Gimel. Hakodeh kol shu chayiv. If one drills, now we'll say kodech literally means drilling. So the Gemara, so Rashi says, v'cholak top Rashi, kol kodech amanas lemalosu. So we'll say in general, we see that the malacha of drilling. So the malacha of drilling was done to bore a hole in order to fill it. So again, either Rashi says, you would make a hole, let's say, in order to put in a peg. So the malacha over here is not really that I need the hole. Ultimately, again, I need the hole because I need the hole, but I need the hole because I'm going to fill it, and I don't need the hole to leave it empty. So the Gemara says, Bishlam Rav Mechse Kiman Dechar Churta Libinyana. So according to Rav, again, the issue of making a hole of drilling, ultimately, again, is what? Is an issue of bona, is an issue of building. You are creating an open space in order to be able to effect an act of building. So the Gemara says, Ela Shmuel, Lav Gimar Malachu. But according to Shmuel, who said before that ultimately, again, this would be a makeh bepatish. So how is this makeh bepatish? There's no gimar malacha. There's no finishing of a malacha here. Hachamayaskinon de baze beramtza de parzala v'shavke bigave. What's the case of Osai? The case of here, interesting enough, is where you drilled the hole by pounding in a metal nail, and the goal is to leave the metal nail there in order to hang something from it. Look at Rashi. Rashi says over here, "Beramtza de baze beramtza de parzala bemesamer aruch shel barzal." You're knocking in a long metal nail. V'shavki bigave litlo spa, and ultimately again you're going ahead and leaving it there. So we'll say this would be a case where ultimately you're making a hole, but it's also a makeh bepatish according to Shmuel. Why? Because you're making the hole, leaving the nail there. The nail again is being left there in order to hang something from it. So it's a case of makeh bepatish. Okay, zehaklal. So the Mishnah said again, this is the rule. Zehaklal la'asuyei mai. So we'll say, remember, the Mishnah said, zehaklal kala osim malacha malacha umalachto miskemes b'Shabbos chayiv. The Mishnah said, whoever does a malacha and the malacha indoors is chayiv. So we'll say, in general, whenever you see that phrase zehaklal, it's usually coming to include something additional than what is stated. So what is it coming to include? La'asuyei dechak kefiza b'kawa. It's coming to include, I'll go say, case like Rashi, dechak kefiza b'kawa. Begolam gadol haroi lachuk bo kav chakak shalosh lugin va'av she'aseh lahosif yesh shemekayim. So what is interesting? What does it come to include? Let's say you have, we'll call it a block of wood, and that block of wood is capable of hollowing out in there a utensil that is able to hold a kav. Kav is a measurement, but let's say instead of hollowing out the space for a kav, you hollow out the space for 3/4 of a kav. So you might have thought that because that piece of wood is capable of having a larger cavity, right? And people would normally make a larger cavity out of it. Therefore, perhaps your melacha is incomplete. Kamash malon, that since you've done something significant, and people make 3/4 kav utensils as well, you have committed an act of melacha on Shabbos. Good. Reb Shimon Gamliel Omer Hamakeh bekornos alastan. Shimon Gamliel says that even one who goes ahead and bangs a hammer on an anvil has also committed a malacha. So says the Gemara, my kavid, what malacha is that, Rabbi say? The act of banging a hammer on an anvil. What exactly is it that you've done? So it's very interesting. Rabba v'Rav Yosef ta'amri tarvayu mipnei shama amin es yado. Because when a person does this, he's steady. Literally, it means he's steadying his hand. But look at Rashi. Ma'amen yado margilim umechabnom lahaka haruuya l'malacha maka gidolo maka kitana. So we'll say, so apparently, when you're hammering something, so when we think about hammering, so often again, you would think about like hammering a nail. So understand, so when you think about hammering was done in the Mishkan. But the context in which hammering was done in the Mishkan was hammering out sheets of gold, right? Because there were certain gold-plated things in the Mishkan. Now, when you hammer precious metals, there's a way to hammer it. If you hammer it in the wrong way, then ultimately what happens? You damage the gold. So what they would do is to kind of practice, I guess, their hammering strokes. They would hammer against an anvil. So the act of going ahead and hitting the hammer on the anvil, although you're not producing anything constructive per se, Lamaisa, you're steadying your hand and readying yourself to perform the malach in the right way. The Gemara says that doesn't make any sense. Kashu b'nei rachva elameata chazo umnasa b'shabsa v'gamar hachanami demechayiv. Is that to say, Rabbosai, if you apprenticed by someone on Shabbos and you watched them do malacha and you learned how to do something, would you be chayiv on Shabbos? And Rabbi said, of course, the answer to that is no. Also, the Gemara is saying over here is, on Shabbos, you're chayiv for the performance of malacha. You're chayiv for creating concrete results. So I understand the concept of hitting the hammer against the anvil. I absolutely understand it, and I understand what it accomplishes, but it does not seem to satisfy the criteria of malacha. Malacha is about concrete results. Lamais over here, you're not creating concrete results. You're learning something. So the Gemara says, and tell me, if you observe someone and you learn the malacha on Shabbos, would you be chayiv? Of course not. Only chayiv for production of malacha. Watch this. Gemara says, Ela Amarab Ela Abai V'Rav Dermot Habayu Shekin Mardide Tasi Mishkan Osin Kain. But say, watch this. The Gemara says, because those actually who made the sheets that would go, the gold sheets that would cover the crush and that would cover the boards, used to do this. What would they do? The Gemara says, fine. Tanya Nami Hakarbai that supports this. Reb Shimon Gamliel Omer Af Hamake Bekornos Alastan B'Shabbos B'Shas. Sorry, Af Hamake Bekornos Alastan B'Shas Malacha. Even one who goes ahead and bangs the hammer against the anvil. B'Shas Malacha, at the time when you're doing work, is chayiv. Why? Shekin Meradide Tasi Mishkan Osin Kain. Because ultimately, again, those who were creating the sheets of gold to cover the boards of the Mishkan would do this. Now we'll say, where would they do this? Look at Rashi. Osin Kain, Rashi says, Makin Gimel alatas, va'achas alastan, lahachlik hakornus, shelo yibaka hatas shudak, ubali matbeya, bimkomenu ra'isi osin. Well, this is incredible. So apparently, when you're going ahead and you're hammering out precious metals, so we'll say, so now in the Mishkan, remember, they're hammering out a sheet of gold. They have to make it thin in order to be able to coat or to cover the boards of the Mishkan. So Rashi says what they would do. This is really fascinating. What they would do is three I don't know what you call it. Three hammerings on the gold, one on the anvil. Three on the gold, one on the anvil. Why would they do this? So they both say, in order to make sure that you don't damage the gold, you have to make sure that the face of the hammer is smooth. So what they would do is every fourth stroke essentially would be against the anvil to smooth out the metal on the hammer. So it'd be 1, 2, 3 on the gold, one on the anvil. 1, 2, 3 on the gold, one on the anvil. So you see from here that ultimately, again, the striking on the anvil was there to go ahead and make sure to smooth out the hammer in order to ensure that the gold would not be damaged. And Rashi points out over here, interestingly enough, Ubale matbea b'mkomein or isi osin kain. Rashi says, I see this. I guess Rashi was saying, by in his time, he saw it by those who made coins. That apparently, again, by making coins, they would do the same thing. Bang on the precious metal, hammer against the precious metal a couple of times, and then go ahead and hit the hammer against the anvil in order to smooth out the metal. Okay, so therefore I will say this was the case literally again of going ahead and banging against the anvil, that although the bang of, so you wouldn't bang on the anvil for the anvil's sake. Interestingly enough, you would bang on the anvil in order to smooth out the hammer, in order that it should not damage the sheets of gold when hammering them out to cover the boards of the Mishkan. Incredible. So it says the Mishnah. We'll say, here we go. New Mishnah. New Mishnah. Hachorish kolshu. So we'll say if a person goes ahead and plows. Chorish literally means plowing any amount. So if you plow any amount on Shabbos, Yechayev. Menachish also means weeding, pulling out weeds. Mekarsin, Rashi says, Kotzeitz anofim yeveshim min ha'ilon l'takno. You cut off dead limbs of a tree in order to go ahead and remedy the tree. Hamizarid. So we'll say mizarid is the same thing, except here you're not cutting off dead branches, but you're cutting off young shoots of the tree. Again, all of it is done in order to go ahead and allow the tree to grow better. So a person goes ahead and weeds any amount. Mekarsin cuts off dead shoots or dead branches. Mizaret cuts off, young shoots. But again, the goal over here is that Allah you do so in order to remedy the tree. Chayiv. Ultimately, again, one is chayiv in any of these cases. Hamlaket eitzim. Assuming again, if one goes ahead and collects wood. So what's the halacha? Im letakein, or I should say, hamlaket eitzim will say, you're collecting branches. Im letakein kol shein. So we'll say if you're collecting the branches, and in this case we assume you'd be cutting them off the tree. If you're doing it to remedy the tree, right, to benefit the tree, then any amount of cutting off of branches you will be chayiv. Im lahesek, on the flip side, if you're going ahead and cutting off the branches in order to use it for fire, kadei lebashal beitzel kalo, then you have to be cutting off enough wood in order to be able to cook an easily cooked egg. Hamalakit asavim. Similarly, again, if you're collecting grass, you're uprooting grass. Im letakein, if you're doing so in order to go ahead and benefit the earth. In other words, you're uprooting grass in order to benefit the ground. So kolshu, then you're chayiv if you go ahead and you uproot any amount. Im lebehema, but if you're going ahead and you're plucking the grass in order to feed it to your animal, kimali piagidi, then ultimately again it has to be enough grass in order to fill the mouth of a kid. Good. So says the Gemara. So remember, let's start from the beginning of the Mishnah. So the Mishnah said by choresh, by going ahead and plowing, if you plow any amount. They're both saying, now understand what that means. What that means effectively is, if you take your finger and you make a hole in the soil, you're chayiv for choresh. So the Gemara says, but what does that do? Like, how does that accomplish anything? Lemay chazi, to which the Gemara says, chazi lebizra dikra. We'll say it's enough to go ahead and plant Rashi says lebizra dikra lezra besocha nema shal dalas. Shabbos I saw dalas is often translated as gourd or pumpkin, so it's enough to go ahead and plant one gourd seed, all right, or one pumpkin seed. To which the Gemara says, "The kavase gabi mishkan shekein roi lekaleach echad shal samamonim." So we're saying this would be found by the Mishkan as well, because by the Mishkan, remember again, they had to have herbs. They had to have herbs. Why do they need herbs? You need herbs in order to go ahead and make dye. So one hole in the earth would have been enough to plant one stalk of an herb in order to go ahead and create dye. Good. Hamenachesh. V'hamekarsim v'hamezaret. So if one weeds, right, that's menachesh. Mekarsim, cutting off dead branches, which we call pruning. Mizaret, which is also pruning, but in this case it's not dead branches, instead it's young branches. So Yechayev, says the Gemara Tan Rabbanan, Hatolish olshin v'hamezaret zuradim. If a person goes ahead, I will say olshin are literally endives. Person goes ahead and uproots endives, or mizaret zuradim. Rashi says Zrodin are min konim hein. It's a type of reed. Uba'odan rakim zordin also on the meichel adam. Niskashu ma'atru in the meichel behema. Yavshu odum la'asaka. So we'll say these zrodin are a type of reed. Apparently, when they're young, they're soft and can be eaten by people. As they mature, they become a little bit harder. They're fit for animal consumption. And then as they get really old, they're only fit for fuel, for a fire, for burning. So the Gemara says the tolish ulshin famizari zradim. So a person goes ahead and uproots endives, or a person cuts down these reeds. Imla achila. So if you're uprooting it for consumption purposes, kegro geres, then you're chayiv if you uproot the amount of a dried fig. I will say this goes back to what we learned before, that halacha lamaisa, the shear for ochlin, the shear for food in general, is a grogeres, the size of the amount of a dried fig. Imla behema, if you're uprooting it in order to feed it to your animal, kimoli piagidi. Ultimately, again, it's enough. You'd have to uproot enough to go ahead and fill the mouth of a kid. Imla hesik, and if you're uprooting it for fuel purposes, for burning purposes, kadei lavashal beitza kala, enough to go ahead and cook an easily cooked egg. Im liyafos esakarka, and if you're just uprooting it to beautify, literally to beautify the soil, meaning to benefit the soil, then kol shehem, then any amount, ultimately, again, you'll be chayiv. I says the Gemara, Ato Kulu Lo Liyafos esakarka ninu. But I will say, isn't the net effect of any of these items that you're benefiting the soil? In other words, I will say, remember, b'pashtus, you're benefiting the soil. How? Because l'maisa, when something grows in the soil, it saps the nutrients and vitality of the soil. When you uproot it, by definition, when you uproot it, by definition, halacha l'maisa, you are going ahead and benefiting the soil, so to speak. To which the Gemara says, Rab of Rav Yosef to Amr Tabayu, Ba'agam Shanu. We're talking about a swamp, where you're uprooting it from a swamp. Therefore, you're going to say, because it's a swamp, there's no real benefit to the soil in that case. Abai Amr Afilotem Besada. Abai Sinor could even be a field. The Lav Agam, in other words, could even be a field that's not a swamp. We could go into Delo Kamachavin. We'll say, it could be the case where I'm uprooting it, but I don't have kavanah to benefit the soil. The Gemara says, but Rabbi say, remember again, even Rabbi Shimon who holds that a person is not chayiv for a davar shenem miskavim, that if a malacha happens, but you didn't have kavanah for that malacha, you're not chayiv. Rabbi Shimon agrees in the case of psik reisha. Remember, we learned about this before. What's a psik reisha? So psik reisha is when you do something that will inevitably result in a malacha. Inevitably, it's inevitably. So even Rabbi Shimon who holds that you're not chayiv for a davar shenem miskavim, you're not chayiv for something that for which you don't have specific intent. But if the malacha is going to unavoidably occur, then halacha l'maaseh you will be chayiv for it. We'll say calls it a psik reisha because apparently, I think I mentioned this before, times of the Gemara. So a very popular child's toy was a chicken head. So let's say again it's my kid's birthday. I want to give them a chicken head, right? But again, so I want to give them the head, but my intention is not to kill the chicken. I love the chickens. I don't need to kill the chicken. I just want the head. So the Gemara says psik reisha v'lo yamus. Can you cut off the head without killing the chicken? So that phrase psik reisha, which literally means cutting off the head, becomes like the term for performing an act that will definitely result in a malacha. So says the Gemara, It's very nice if you're saying that we'll call it Ruvain doesn't have kavana when he uproots the item from the ground to benefit the soil, but Lamaise is benefiting the soil. To which the Gemara says, what's the case? The case is where ultimately again he's doing this in the soil of his friend. So I'll say because it's not even my own soil, therefore again I don't get any benefit. There's no benefit I get from the act of uprooting. Rather, ultimately again the benefit is only affected. The benefit goes to someone else, and therefore halacha l'maisa, that wasn't my kavana. In other words, not only was it not my kavana, but I don't benefit from it because it's not my soil. Good. So both say. So remember, what's fascinating about this sugya. So this everything we're learning now is halacha l'maisa. So a person goes in and takes their finger, makes a hole in the ground. One has violated charisha, right? One has violated plowing. Again, any of these. Now, both say what's interesting about all of these cases is you begin to see how the same act, the liability varies depending on what your kavana is, right? So in other words, if you're doing something to benefit the soil, the shear is this. You're doing something to benefit your self-consumption, the shear is this. You're doing something to benefit ultimately animals, the shear is this. You're detaching something in order to use it for fuel, the shear is this. So it's really, this is really quite fascinating because we begin to see in the book saying this is unique by Shabbos because remember again, in general, what halacha prides itself on are shiurim. Right? There's a halacha, there's a framework. Here's the halacha, here's the framework. By Shabbos, you have this very unique concept that your kavana has a dramatic impact on the act. And the reason for that, remember, is because by Shabbos, you have the concept of meleches machsheves. And meleches machsheves tells me that my kavana, my intention or intentionality, frames the action in different ways. So intentionality for an animal frames it one way, intentionality for human consumption frames it a different way, intentionality to improve the soil, it frames it a different way. Very unique construct by Shabbos. Good. Mishnah. But so now we're going to get to a really interesting sugya that's actually we're going to spend, I think, the next day and a half or so on this sugya, which is really very interesting. Kosev shtei osios. Writing. But we're going to spend a little bit of time on the malach of kosev. The malacha of writing. So if a person writes 2 letters on Shabbos, bein b'yamino bein mismolo, whether you write it with your right hand, whether you write it with your left hand, bein mishem echad, bein mishtei shemos. I will say whether you're writing, now shem echad means the same letter twice or 2 different letters. So Rashi, for example, shem echad is you write the letter aleph twice, and by the way, don't think just Rashi uses aleph. The malacha of kosev doesn't matter. We're going to see it doesn't matter what language you write in. So whether you write, so remember, the shear for ksiva, the Gemara says, is you're writing 2 letters. Whether you write it with your left hand, whether you write it with your left hand. Whether you write 2 different letters or the same letter twice. Bei mishtei simanios, whether you use 2 different inks or the same ink. B'chal lashon, in any language, chayiv. Chayiv for kosev, chayiv for writing. Am Rabbi Yossi, lo chayivu shtei osios el mishum roshem. Listen, this is incredible. Rabbi Yossi says, really, the malacha of ksiva doesn't even require you to write letters. Rather, the malacha of kosev you violate if you make significant markings. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Mishum roshem. Rashi says, simin shayu osim b'karshim mishkan. Rabbi Yossi, listen to this. Rabbi Yossi says. Actually, before we get to Rashi, look at that Mishnah again. In reality, you're chayiv ultimately, again, you violate the malacha of ksiva, even if you don't write 2 letters, but you just make 2 significant markings. Why is that? So the Gemara says, Shekach kosvin al karshia mishkan leida iza ben zugo. They will say, where was ksiva done in the Mishkan? This is actually fascinating. Where did they write in the Mishkan? The halacha was that when you put up the boards of the Mishkan must always be placed in the same position, right? You can't move the boards around. So therefore, again, what would they do? They would label the boards. Make some type of marking on the boards, whether it was, Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalet, whatever it was, or some other type of markings. Rabbi Yossi says it didn't have to be letters. It was some type of markings that you should know where the boards of the Mishkan goes. Rabbi Yossi is very interesting because now look at Rashi, Mishum Roshim, Simshay Osim Bekarsha Mishkan, Mipnei Shem Farkin also. They would take down the Mishkan, and if when you put it back up, you're not supposed to change the order of the boards. So we'll say, this yields a fascinating idea. Therefore, Rabbi Yossi says that halacha l'maaseh, see, the Tanakama says, that Rabbanan say, that the malacha of kosef is the writing of two letters. Rabbi Yossi comes along and says, no, it's the writing, it could be the writing of two letters, or the writing of two symbols. As long as you have two clear symbols, that's also the malach of kosef, for that is how it was done in the Mishkan. So also I just point out, I think I mentioned this last week or the week before, so this is why there's actually a concept brought down, one of the symbolisms of the sukkah, ultimately again is that the sukkah is supposed to resemble the Mishkan. So that's why again it's brought down in Sefer Tamei Minhagim that some have a minhag to label the boards of their sukkah, to make sure to always put up the boards in the same way. It's not a halacha, but it's brought down in Tamei Minhagim that just like the Mishkan, the boards were put up in the same way, that the makbid on the sukkah, that the boards should be put up the same way. It's an interesting idea. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Matzinu Shem Katan Mishem Gadol. So Rabbi Yehuda says, it's very interesting. Rabbi Yehuda says that sometimes you could even violate the malacha of kosef, even if you don't write a full name. So sometimes even if you write a shorter form of a fuller name, you could be chayiv. For example, he says, Shem Mishimon. Let's say you were going to write Shimon and you just write Shem, Shin Mem. Or Shem Mishmuel. Right? Ultimately, again, you were going to write Shmuel, and you just wrote Shin Mem. And I remember, again, Shem by itself is significant. Noach, mi Nachar. You were going to write Nachar. Instead, you just wrote Noach. Dan, mi Daniel. Gad, mi Gadiel. Now look at Rashi. What is Rabbi Yehuda coming to add? Ha'asla shmina Rabbi Yehuda. Da'afa gavto shlo nigmar malachto sheneskabi lichtov teva gidola. The cost of mikzas, but also mikzas vu teva miskem. So makom acher chai. So we'll say what Rabbi Yehuda is coming to say is as follows. By ksiva, if you had intention to do to write a longer name, but instead you only ended up writing two letters of that name, but the two letters of the name that you wrote are a significant name by themselves, you'll be chayiv. So we'll see exactly what Rabbi Yehuda fits in with everyone else. I will say, so here's what we have. 3 shitas in the Mishnah. Tanakama the Rabbanan telling me that I'm chayiv on Shabbos if I write 2 letters. Right hand, left hand, different types of ink. Same letter, different letters, doesn't matter. Rabbi Yossi coming along and saying, by the way, it's not just letters. Even if you make 2 significant symbols, you're chayiv for ksiv on Shabbos. Rabbi Yehuda telling me that if I started off, my intention was to write a longer name, but instead I only ended up writing a shorter name. As long as that shorter name is significant, I will be chayiv as well. Good. Says the Gemara, Bishlama ayamin l'chayiv mishum derech ksiv b'kach, ela small amai ha'im derech ksiv b'kach. I don't understand. The Mishnah said that you're chayiv for writing 2 letters, whether you write it with your left hand or your right hand. That doesn't make sense. If you write it with your right hand, that's normal. Left hand is abnormal. I know us lefties are a little bit offended by statements like this, but it is it's a right hand man's world. That's for sure. So the Gemara says, so what happens? So the Gemara says, the left. So how does the Mishnah say that halacha l'maisa the left is normal? That's not true. No, talking about a lefty. So for us lefties, right? So for a left-handed person, if he writes with his left hand, he's chayiv on Shabbos. The Gemara says that doesn't make any sense. It will say, in other words, that's not what the Mishnah is saying, right? Because it will say, okay, of course that makes sense, because what the right hand is to a right-handed person, the left hand is to a left-handed person. So I don't need the Mishnah really to say that. So the Gemara says, rather, that they have a small didei, because it will say, because again, just like a right-handed person should not be chayiv if he writes with his left hand, because that's abnormal. So to have a left-handed person writes with his right hand, he should not be chayiv as well. To which the Gemara says, what are we talking about? We're talking about a person who's ambidextrous, right? A person who is able to write with both hands. So the Mishnah just says a person who is able to write with both hands, halacha l'maisa is chayiv for Shabbos if he writes with both hands. I will say, this in general is an interesting halacha about the status. See, so you'll say to yourself, isn't that obvious? Isn't that obvious that a person who writes with both hands is going to be chayiv if he writes with either hand on Shabbos? So what's interesting to note is as follows. From a halachic perspective, a person who writes with both hands is still halachically considered to be a right-handed individual. It's very important. So, for example, let's say an ambidextrous person will put on tefillin like a right-handed person. So it's interesting. Even though he could use both hands, halachically he's categorized as a right-handed person. So I might have thought that because he's categorized as a right-handed person, he's only chayiv on Shabbos if he writes with his right hand. Kamashmala, no, since he has the ability to write with his left hand as well, if he writes with either hand, he will be chayiv. Okay. Rabbi Yaakov Breid Debas Yaakov Amar Haman Rabbi Yossi Da Amar Lo chayiv shtei osios ela mishum roshem. So we're supposed to listen to this. So Yaakov Breid Debas Yaakov says, whose opinion is reflected here? This is the opinion ultimately again of Rabbi Yossi, who says that you're only chayiv lo chayiv shtei osios. That ultimately again you don't have to write two letters. Rather, all you need to do is write two recognizable symbols. The Rabbi said, now why is that significant? Because obviously, even if a person is right-handed, right, I might not be able to write well with my left hand, but I can make markings. All right, Rabbi Yossi says you don't need to write letters to be violation of ksiva. You have to write meaningful markings. So I'll say even if a person writes with one hand, they can make markings with the other hand. So the Gemara says, so therefore, maybe that's what it's coming to say. That statement of your chayev, whether you write with your right or whether you write with your left, is reflective of the sheet of Rabbi Yossi, who says that ksiva does not require letters, but even making significant markings is enough, and that you could do with either hand. I, says the Gemara Vahami, the Sefer Rabbi Yossi, he, Rachel of Rabbi Yossi. But 1 second, Rabbi Yossi is explicitly mentioned in the end of the Mishnah. So we'll say generally the way Mishnahs are set up is when there's an opinion mentioned explicitly at the end of the Mishnah, that's generally not the opinion quoted in the beginning of the Mishnah. To which the Gemara says, Kula Rabbi Yossi. In fact, the entire Mishnah is reflective of Rabbi Yossi. So therefore, also the Gemara suggests over here as follows: that the statement that you could be chayiv for kosev, whether you write with your right or whether you write with your left hand, is reflective of the shita of Rabbi Yossi. That Rabbi Yossi holds that you could be chayiv for kosev, even if what? Even not with writing letters, but just making recognizable markings or some type of significant markings, you could do that with either hand. So because you could do that with Rabbi Yossi, says, halacha l'maisa, if you make two recognizable markings on Shabbos, whether you did it with your dominant hand or your non-dominant hand, your weaker hand, halacha l'maisa, you will be chayiv. Amazing. Am Rabbi Yehuda matzinu. So also says the Gemara. So Rabbi Yehuda, remember Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah says, matzin hu shem katan b'shem gadol. So right, Rabbi Yehuda's idea was that even if halacha l'maisa, your intention was to write a longer name, right? You wanted to write Shimon, but all you end up writing is Shema, Shin Mem. Rabbi Yehuda will say you're chayiv since the smaller unit that you wrote was significant as well. So says the Gemara. El Rabbi Yehuda, Shtei Osios Vehin Shnei Shemos Hu Demechayiv. So we'll say, since according to Rabbi Yehuda, you only chayiv in that case. Why? Because the two letters that you wrote form their own name, right? Shem, right? Shem, done from Daniel, Gad from Gadiel. Hashem Echad. I'm sorry. Ella Rabbi Yehuda Shtei Osios Vehin Shnei Shemos Hu Demechayiv. Shtei Osios Vehin Shem Echad Lo Mechayiv. So we'll say this also only makes it sound like Rabbi Yehuda is saying that you're only chayiv if you wrote two different letters, right? But if you wrote the same letter twice, you would not be chayiv. Is that true? V'hatanya, we learned va'asa achos. So we'll say the pasuk that the Gemara is quoting over here is as follows: Dabra b'nei Yisrael lemor nefesh ki sechta b'shgaga mikol mitzvos Hashem asher lo te'asena va'asa me'achos mehina. And you performed one of these malachas. So the Gemara says, Yochol achi yichtav kol Hashem. You might have thought that on Shabbos only chayiv if you write an entire name, va'achi yara kol habeged, or until you stitch an entire garment, or weave an entire garment, va'achi yasa kol anaf, or until you make an entire sieve, until you make an entire kli. Talmud lomar me'achos. They will say me'achos means that even if you don't complete an entire unit of creation, right? You don't create something in totality, but you do something partial, you could still be chayiv. Imi achas yachal afil lo kasav ela os achas v'lo arag ela chut echad v'lo asa ela bayis echad benafa. So we'll say when it says achas, you might have thought that you're only chayiv even if you only write one letter, or you only stitch or weave one stitch, or I will say you only make one part of the sieve. Just Rashi points out the way you make a sieve is you place pieces of reed places of reeds going downwards. Then you place smaller pieces of reed going across, and you stitch them together like that. So you would have thought that only if you made one loop in the seam that's enough. Amud Beis Talmud Lomar Achos. The Gemara says. So therefore, the pasuk says Achos, right? That it has to be a complete malacha. So we'll say. So which one is it? Must I do a complete malacha, or is a partial malacha enough as well? Ketzad. Eino chayiv at sheyichtov shem katan mishem gadol. Therefore, what do you see? For ksiva, I will say, for example, you only chayiv if you end up writing a smaller name that is part of a larger name. For example, Shem mishemin, umishmuel, Noach minachar, Dan midaniel, Gad migadiel. Okay, Rabbi Huda says no. Afilu lo kasav elashtei osios vehein shem echad. So Rabbi Huda says even if you wrote two letters, and even if they're the same letter, you would still be chayiv. Kigon, sas, tas, rar, gog, chach. Now, both say, as we're going to see, what's unique about these particular letters is these letters themselves form words. Look at Rashi just a moment. Elabeis osios shel shem echad kigon sas tas vehein metevos gedolos kigon sas mishesh batzar misheshach sheshamim tach mitisro. Titnu v'koshkin miskavin l'ktanik tchila. So we'll say, interestingly enough, halacha l'maisa, what Rabbi Huda is saying is as follows. Even if you write the same letter twice, but those letters form their own words, halacha l'maisa, you will be chayiv. Am Rabbi Yossi, v'chi mishum kosif hu chayiv, v'lo enu chayiv mishum roshin. We'll say, now again, this brisa is just a restatement of the Mishnah. So over here, just understand what you have. You have Rabbi Huda saying like this. Two things Rabbi Yehuda is saying. If you intended to write a larger name, but instead you wrote two letters that comprise a different name, whether those are two different letters or the same letter, halacha l'maisa you'll be chayiv. But it appears that the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda is that the two letters that you write must be some unit of significance. In other words, they must be some type of word on their own. Comes on Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says, 1 second. The malach of ksiva is not even about letters. The malach of ksiva, v'alo enu chayiv el mishum roshim. Rabbi Yossi says you don't even have to write letters. See, they both say the Tanakama, right? The Rabbanan is saying two letters, and the Rabbanan is the Tanakama is saying whether it's two letters, the same letter twice, different letters doesn't make a difference. Two letters. Rabbi Yehuda is saying two letters that form a word, whether it's two different letters or two of the same letters. Rabbi Yossi says there's nothing to do with letters. This just has to do with two significant markings. As long as you've made two significant markings, you're chayiv. After all, says the Mashachin Roshmin Akar Mishkan Leida Ezohi Ben Zugo. Because remember again, where does Kosef come from in the Mishkan? Kosef in the Mishkan is not even writing letters. Kosef in the Mishkan was making markings on the boards so that you should know which board goes next to what. Lefichach Sarat Srita Achas Al Shtei Nisarin. Therefore, we'll say if you go ahead and you make markings on two different boards, or one marking on two boards, or Oshte Siritos al Neser Echad, or two markings on one board, Chayiv. Ultimately, again, you are Chayiv. So we'll say that is the sheet of Rabbi Yossi. We'll say, remember, so far, you have three different opinions. Right, you have three different opinions. Halacha l'maisa, again, you have the opinion of the Tanakama, right? And the opinion of the Tanakama ultimately, again, is any two letters. Opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, two letters of a larger word, or two letters themselves that form a word, different letters, same letter. Rabbi Yossi, markings. Markings are enough to make you chayiv. To which the Gemara says, Rabbi Shimon Omer, va'asa achos, yochol achi yichtov kol Hashem, achi yara kol habeged, achi says kol hanafas. Well, see, now we're going back. So remember again, Rabbi Shimon said, the Gemara is now just re-quoting this brisa that we saw before. So Rabbi Shimon says that halacha. Now it's the opinion of Rabbi Shimon. So Rabbi Shimon says, I'm sorry. Va'asa achos. So the Torah says you shall perform a malacha. Asa achos. Yochel ach yichtov es kol Hashem. You might have thought the Rebbe said that you're only chayiv on Shabbos if you do something in a complete fashion. You wrote the entire name. Ach yaro kol habeged, or you wove together the entire garment, or achiyasa kalanafa, you make the entire sieve. Talmud lomer me'achos. The Rebbe said the pasuk is me'achos. Now, what does me'achos mean? Me'achos means from one malacha, which sounds like what? You need not perform a malacha in its entirety in order to be chayiv. Imiachos, of Lashon me'achos, from one, I might have thought, Yachal afilu kasav ela osachos, I might have thought, therefore, even if I only wrote one letter, Vafilu lo arag ela chut echad, or I only wove one stitch, Vafilu lo asa ela bayis echad benafa, or I only made one loop in the sieve, Talmud lomar, achos. Therefore, the pasuk says achos. So we'll say, so again, it's almost like conflicting drashas. Achos means I'm only going to be chayiv if I do a complete malacha. Me'achos means I'm chayiv even if I do a partial malacha. So which one is it? Haketzad eno chayiv ad shiyasem malacha shekiyotze ba miskayemes. So I'll say, interestingly enough, you don't have to do the complete malacha, but you must do malacha in a way that what you've done is a complete unit. You hear this? So you don't have to do the malacha in its entirety, but what it is that you in fact perform must be a complete unit of performance. So the Gemara continues with the drasha. Rabbi Yossi Omer, va'asa achos, v'asa hena. It's really two different phrases. You shall do one, va'achas hena, and you will do something. Pamim shechayev achas al kulon. One, sometimes Rabbi say you could be chayev once for many different actions. Upamim shechayev akol achas va'achas. And sometimes you will be chayiv many times for many different actions. We're going to define all of this. Katani miham. We'll say what comes out from this. Rabbi Huda Omer afilu lo kasav eleshnei osios vehein shem echad chayiv. I will say, well, what do you see from here? You see from here that Rabbi Huda holds that what? Even if you wrote two letters, two of the same letter twice, you would be chayiv. Remember again, let's go back all the way to the beginning. Right? Rabbi Huda holds that if you write the same letter twice, you're chayiv. Now remember again, that seems to contradict what we said before. Because remember again, what did we say in Amud Aleph? On Amud Aleph, the inference seemed to be that Rabbi Yehuda said that you're only chayiv for writing two letters if what? If it's two different letters. Now we see that Rabbi Yehuda holds that Allah chalamais you're chayiv for even writing the same letter twice. To which the Gemara says, Lo kashya, it's not a contradiction. Why? Hadidei hadrabe. One is Rabbi Yehuda's opinion and one is his Rabbi's opinion. The Sanya, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi say, first wide line, Kuf Gimel Amud Beis. The Sanya, Rabbi Yehuda, Omer Shom Rabbi Gamliel. Afilu lo kasav ela beis osios, vehein shem echad chayiv. Kigon sas, tas, rar, gog, chach. So we'll say, ultimately, again, Rabbi Yehuda says the name of Rabbi Gamliel, who's his Rabbi, even if you wrote the same letter twice, right, that ultimately, again, you will be chayiv. So we'll say, when Rabbi Yehuda quotes his Rabbi, Rabbi Gamliel, that's Rabbi Gamliel's shita that even if you write the same letter twice, Rabbi Yehuda himself holds that halacha l'maisa, in order to be chayiv for kosev, you must write two different letters. To which the Gemara says as follows: I've Rabbi Shimon Hainu Tanakama. For Rabbi Shimon, ultimately again is the same opinion as the Tanakama. Tanakama also holds that you can write the same letter twice, you be chayiv. The Gemara says v'chitema aleph aleph dez reka ika benayu. So we'll say ultimately again. So maybe the nafkaminu, this is very interesting. Maybe the nafkaminu Rabbi Shimon and the Tanakama is aleph aleph. What happens if you just wrote two alephs? Two alephs. So we'll say, for example, again, two alephs could be the beginning of the word ezreka. Right, the pasuk from Yeshaya. Ani Hashem ve'in od zulasi, ein elokim azrecha v'lo yidatani. Right, so we'll say, so maybe a person began to write the word azrecha and he just wrote aleph aleph. So watch this. The Tanakama Savra aleph aleph de'ezrecha lo mechayiv. Tanakama will hold that aleph aleph you're not chayiv for. Why, Rabbi say? Because even the Tanakama holds that you're chayiv ultimately again for the same letter. Only holds that you're chayiv when if the same letter spells a word. But ultimately again, if it doesn't spell a word, you're not chayiv. Rabbi Shimon Savra Kevan the Isay Begal Ture Ba'alma Chayev. Well, it's very interesting. Maybe Rabbi Shimon holds that you're chayev for aleph aleph. Why? This is actually quite fascinating because apparently people who used to write amulets, it was very right kamiyas. It was very common to have aleph aleph. You know what this means? Rashi says the Isa Begal Ture Kamiyos Uksavim Shal Machashevos Vishal Shemos. Chorin belashon lation shaminin shaminin kultrus regilin sofrin lichtov bahem tevo shel shtei osios ve'inam tevos u'makom acher. So apparently, again, it was commonplace in the writing of amulets to write aleph aleph. Okay, so therefore, again, aleph aleph according to Tanakama, or according to Rabbi Shimon, I should say, would be something significant. The memra to Rabbi Shimon l'chumra. So we'll say, is this to say that Rabbi Shimon is l'chumra? Vatanya hakodeach kol shu chayiv. Also going back for just a moment, if a person drills any amount, they'll be chayiv. Hamegara kol shehu, if a person scrapes, this is by parchment, person or by a hide, a person scrapes any amount, they're going to be chayiv. Hama'abid kol shehu, person tends any amount of hide, they're chayiv. Hatzart kli b'tzura kol shehu, person fashions an image in a utensil of any amount, they're chayiv. Rabbi Shimon Omer, no. Ad shiakteach es kulo. You're only chayiv for drilling until you make a complete hole. Ad shigra es kulo. You're only chayiv for scraping hide until you scrape the entire hide. Ad shiyabed es kulo. You're only chayiv for tanning after you tan the entire hide. Ad shiyatzar kulo. And if you're fashioning an image on a utensil, you're only chayiv if you do the complete image. So you see that what? Rabbi Shimon is more machmir. Rather, Rabbi Shimon is coming to say that halacha l'maisa, you're only chayiv for ksiva if you write a complete name. Is that true? That Rabbi Shimon holds that you're only chayiv on Shabbos if you write a complete name? Vatanya, Rabbi Shimon Omer, va'asa achos, yochel ad sheyichtov es Hashem kulo. The pasuk says you should perform a complete melacha. So you might have thought you only chayiv on Shabbos if you write the complete name. Talmud Omer me'achos. Therefore, the pasuk says me'achos. You don't have to write a complete name, but rather even if you write some part of the name. So which one is it? Taritz ve'emahachi. Yochel ad sheyichtov es pasuk kulo. You might have thought Rabbi said that you only chayiv on Shabbos if you write the complete pasuk. Talmud Omer me'achos. Therefore, the Gemara says, therefore the Torah says me'achos. Rabbi Yossi Omer va'asa achas va'asa hena. Rabbi Yossi says a different drasha. He says va'asa. He actually breaks into two phrases. Va'asa achas va'asa hena. Pamim shechayiv achas al kulan. Pamim shechayiv al kol achas va'achas. Rabbi Yossi says sometimes you're chayiv once for many actions, and sometimes you're chayiv many times for many actions. I'm Rabbi Yossi Arichanina. My time Rabbi Yossi. Achas me'achas hena mehena. Achas shihi hena vehena shi achas. What's the example here? Go both say Shimon. I'm sorry. Let me translate that. Achas mehena hena mehena achas shi hena vehena shi achas. So we'll say what that means is as follows. Essentially, simply, sometimes you could be chayiv multiple times for multiple things. Sometimes you're only going to be chayiv once for multiple actions. So, for example, the Gemara says, Achas mishimin, me'achas shem mishimin. So we'll say, so for example, halacha l'mais, if you write the word shimin on Shabbos, you'll be chayiv, that's achos. But also if you write shem mishimin, shin mem, which is a significant unit, it's two letters and it's also a name on its own, you'll also be chayiv. So the Gemara says, heina, avos. Heina means the avos, faleitu melachos, mehena, from amongst them, toldos. Achos shihihena. We'll say, what's an example of achos shihihena? Zodon Shabbos v'shigagas malachos. So we'll say, listen to this. Achos mehena means, let's say, both say again, you know that it's Shabbos, but you forgot about the malachos. So what's the halacha in that kind of case, Rabbi saying? So the halacha is, you're only chayiv once, right? If you knew it was Shabbos, but you didn't know malachas, and you violated multiple malachas, ultimately you'll be chayiv once. Heina shi achos, but ultimately, again, I should say, excuse me, in that case, you're chayiv for every single malacha. Heina shi achos, shigaga Shabbos v'zadan malachas. What's the case? I will say many things, but only one level of liability. That's shigaga Shabbos, where you made a mistake regarding Shabbos, v'zadan malachas. Look at Rashi. Ultimately, again, so heina shi achos, shigas zadan v'zadan malachas, she'afal pi she'in gufim malachas harbe, enu chayiv ela achos, da'achat shkalgi. So we'll say, so for example, in a case where you know that it's Shabbos, but you didn't know the malachas, so you'll be chayiv for every single malacha. If you forgot that it's Shabbos, but you know the malachas, so shigaga Shabbos zadan malachas, in that case, you're only going to be chayiv one. So we'll say, okay, I apologize that we did that last part a little bit quickly. We'll stop over here for today, but just understand what we're leaving off with. We're still left with our yisodistic machlokas by ksiva. When do you violate the malacha of kosef? So here are the shitos we have. Shita number one, any two letters, whether the two letters form a name, two letters don't form a name, same letter, different letters, that's opinion number one. Opinion number two, only if the two letters can be the same letters or different letters, but they must form some word by themselves. Third shita, which is the shita of Rabbi Yossi, you can be in violation of kosef even without letters at all. Because Rabbi Yossi holds that Allah ksiva was found in the Mishkan not even by letters, but as long as you make two recognizable markings, ultimately, again, you will be chayiv. Rabbi Yossi, the sheet of Rabbi Yossi is most dramatic. Why? Because sheet Rabbi Yossi tells you that whether you make those markings with your right hand or your left hand, it doesn't make a difference because it's not a din in writing letters, it's a din in markings. According to the other opinions who hold that it's a din in letters, writing, you'll only be chayiv if you use your dominant hand. So how we pass halacha l'maaseh me'eretz Hashem, we'll see in tomorrow's shir. Thank you to everyone for joining us. We'll continue here Me'eretz Hashem tomorrow. The davening will be broadcast on the Zoom, so we'll end this room and Me'eretz Hashem start up in a few minutes again.